Hi everyone, Eric from Mocha System here, and after a really successful, surprisingly successful SGPP last week, I wanted to share the materials with you that we presented, but rather than just sending you the PDFs, which I promise I'm doing as well, Josh and I got together and we decided it would be better to do a full demo for you and give you a video walkthrough of what we discussed so that you would have all the details for your reference. So I hope this video is really useful to you and I welcome your questions in the future, hopefully the very near future. So let's get into it. What is Airfob Space 2.0? As we discussed last week, it's no longer just a way to provide mobile credentials on top of BioStar with Suprema. It's a standalone access control as a service solution. It's feature-rich, cloud-based. There's no need to maintain on-site servers, so it's much easier for your customers. There's no need for door controllers, and the installation's been greatly simplified. We've also fully redesigned the backend so that it can scale to a massive amount. It's much more stable, and in terms of regulatory compliance, being able to put servers in multiple locations and regions around the world means that we can store personally identifiable information in your own region. We've got a new user-centric model rather than a site-centric model that I'll explain more in just a moment. And it also has a great fully redesigned front end that includes the Airfob Pro web portal, Airfob Pro app, and Airfob Space app for users. Just a quick note here. A lot of you are familiar with Suprema Mobile Access down here in the lower right corner of the screen. That has been running on Airfob Engine 1.0. What we've redone, what's new, is Airfob Engine 2.0, and that is what is powering Airfob Space, our complete cloud-based Airfob access control as a service. So what we're going to be talking about going forward is all about Airfob Engine 2.0 and Airfob Space 2.0. What are some of the advantages of having access in the cloud versus a legacy on-premise system? First off, it's in the cloud, so you don't have to manage those servers, and you can also consolidate back office operations. A lot of you heard from our customer Fast5, who has implemented Airfob Space across about 50 locations for nearly 30,000 users here in Korea. One of the big benefits they've seen is being able to take their community managers. Fast5 is a co-working space. They've been able to take their community managers, free them up from the front desk, and let them do more rewarding tasks and higher value-added tasks than simply handing out cards and taking them back again. Another big benefit is, we've seen a move from CapEx towards OpEx. So we're taking out some of the big upfront costs and allowing customers to pay monthly for the service that they use. We're reducing the amount of cabling, especially that expensive RS-485 twisted pair cable that has to be run all over the building. Instead, we just need short runs and cheap Ethernet cable. We've eliminated the need for door controllers because our readers act as door controllers. You just simply connect the network connection and power, if you're not using PoE, to the reader, connect it to the door, and you're ready to go. And we are also pricing our hardware, our Airfob Edge Reader and Airfob Edge Reader Ultimate. We're pricing that in a very competitive way to make this a very attractive solution, especially for everyone from small businesses where cost matters to get into access control to companies that have massive scale across multiple branches, so the cost of every single reader still matters. Here are some of the biggest selling points that we've seen based on our early sales in Korea. So first off, scale, the ability to simply add another reader to the system without having to add additional door controllers or any other equipment. Just add a reader, connect it to the network and power, add it to the site using the Airfob Pro app or via our API, and the reader is ready to be part of your site. You don't have to add another door controller, so when you move from, say, 4 doors to 5 doors, the cost doesn't go up by an order of magnitude. Low maintenance because of the lack of on-site servers. Everybody's always up to date with the latest software, so you don't have to worry about bugging everyone to patch their system. And the efficiency gains that I mentioned with Fast Five and other companies before, being able to consolidate your back office operations and just run the business in a more efficient way to get the information you need also wherever you are. And I guess one of the other efficiencies is that your head of facilities or head of HR doesn't have to hang around the office to let people in when they forget their cards. They can do that from anywhere in the world using the Airfob Pro app. We've made a major shift from a site-centric model to a user-centric model with Airfob Space 2.0. Let me explain what that means. With most legacy and on-prem systems, you have a site at the center and then users are connected to that site. So you could be, I could be Eric number 1 at one site and Eric number 4328 at another site. And there's no connection between the two. So it's really not great for verifying identity. It's not great for connecting to other cloud services. And it's really terrible if you have a multi-branch operation and you're trying to propagate those user profiles across all of your locations. That doesn't happen very easily or reliably with most on-prem systems. With Airfob Space 2.0, we're putting verified user identity at the center of the system, and then we attach access rights to that verified identity. That means for a co-working space with multiple branches, a gym, self-storage, any kind of multi-branch company, hybrid offices as well, they don't have to worry about attaching or propagating that user profile across all of their branches. It happens automatically in the cloud. We've also introduced a new microservice-based architecture, so we'll be able to launch new services continuously without affecting the back end in any other way, without affecting your service in any other way. And we'll be able to have geographic distribution of our servers so that we can be compliant with privacy regulations like GDPR. At launch, we're going to have servers in Korea and most likely in Germany as well. And then after that, as business demands, we can roll out other servers around the world. And we will also eventually have a private cloud offering as well. I say eventually, but we're aiming to have that ready by mid-2023. One important thing to remember with Airfob Space is that it's not just mobile credentials. You can use RFID cards as well, so that your users, your administrators have a choice. They don't have to use something that they're not comfortable with. We all know that not everyone is up on the latest technology, and at some sites you'll need to have the ability to use either MyFair or Desfire card. Here's the overall roadmap we're looking at. Based on some feedback that we received during SGPP and before SGPP, we decided to reorder some of our priorities. So for example, you see in the middle of the screen the distributor portal. It's now our plan to launch that at the same time as Airfob Space launches, so that you'll be able to create sites and distribute credits to all of your site admins who are under your distributor agreement. We've also heard from you that alarm services, being able to integrate with the on-site alarm services, is going to be very important. So we're also aiming to move that up from late next year to mid next year so that you'll be able to do whole building installations and give your customer confidence that the alarm will be set or will be armed or disarmed at the same time that they check in using Airfob. Here is the whole view of the system. It's very simple. What you don't see here is just as important as what you do see. No home run wiring. Just connect the reader to the internet and to the disconnect the reader to the internet and to power, and it's ready to go. And when you're using the cards, when you're using the mobile credentials, the communication can happen over the mobile network. So it's a very robust connection. I think also it's important to point out here what happens when the network goes down. Well, if the network goes down in your building and you're using mobile credentials, very little happens because the mobile network can do the verification of the credentials. If both the mobile network and the network in your building go down, we have an offline mode that allows you to continue to use mobile credentials for up to, well, a default of 24 hours. But we can also set that to be as little as, say, 5 seconds or as much as 5 days, depending on your individual needs. We're continuing to pay close attention to security, and we'll continue to implement the same level of encryption and security that we've used all along with Airfob credentials. This has always been industry leading in terms of end-to-end encryption, token-based authentication, and using a one-time passcode so that even if someone were to sneak in between your phone and the reader and try to sniff out that connection, the token that they used to enter would have expired by the time they get to the door. Those are true one-time passcodes, and they can't be duplicated. Of course, all mobile card data is stored securely in the phone's TEE, and mobile card prevention technology is based on the same cryptographic principles as the best encryption on the market. So you can feel that you're quite safe using Airfob credentials. One thing that's become evident too is that even organizations like the CIA are investing billions of dollars into cloud infrastructure because they see it as being just as safe as on-premise, but giving them greater flexibility. So even the most security conscious organizations, and this is a great talking point for your own customers, even the most security conscious organizations are now using cloud services and not just using them, fully embracing cloud services. Let's look at the hardware quickly. These are our Airfob Edge readers. As you can see, you can customize the front faceplate for your own brand or your customer's brand. Generally, this has a minimum order quantity of 500 units, but if there's a special case, we can work with you on it, and maybe the price will be a little higher, but we're really eager to work with you and get these Airfob Edge readers out into the market. The Airfob Edge Reader Ultimate will be priced the same as the XPass 2, and it's an indoor-outdoor reader with PoE and quite a broad range of capabilities. We also have the Airfob Edge Reader that we think will be good for about 80% of cases, and that will be about 30% cheaper than the Airfob Edge Reader Ultimate. The big difference here is that we took out PoE And we also took out some of the weatherproofing. So you can't put it outside, but for indoor installations, it's the ideal choice. We're continuing to support the Airfob patch. In fact, we have a new chipset that's far more reliable and far easier to put onto the reader and get it to work the first time with no need to adjust the position. And of course, the Airfob tag that many of you saw and loved so much. This is for digital door locks and other readers that don't have a continuous power connection. We've seen enormous interest in this so far, and we'll let you know more as it becomes ready to launch in your market as well. In addition to those, we are also supporting the Suprema XPass 2. We're doing this specifically for time and attendance because there's so many companies that need this TNA functionality, being able to use the function keys on screen and show people when they have actually checked in. And Suprema will be providing a special version of the XPass 2 with the Airfob firmware pre-installed on it. Of course, you can also use, this should be the X Station 2, not the XPass 2. You can use the XPass 2 as well. We'll need to discuss how you use that exactly, but for example, if you have an existing installation with XPass 2, we'll be happy to make that work for you. Additionally, we are supporting the SIO2 at launch, so you can install readers outside the secure perimeter of the building, and the OM120 for elevator access control. Here's a quick rundown of what we're supporting. Now for a quick look at the software side of things. In the past, for Airfob, you needed 4 apps to use it. You needed the Airfob portal, the Airfob admin app to register to control doors remotely, the Airfob app for users, and the Suprema device manager to set some BLE settings on the readers. We wanted to simplify things. So what we've done is now we have the Airfob Pro web portal. That's all administration on the web. The Airfob Pro app, instead of registering readers in the Airfob app, instead of doing that in the Airfob app, you'll now do it in the Airfob Pro app where it makes sense to do it. And of course, the Airfob Space app for users is getting an all-new card-based design. Here's a quick look at some of the changes from 1.0 to 2.0. For the Airfob Space mobile app, one of the things that we've heard is that people are not getting support easily enough, or they're coming to Mocha for support. We want to make sure that people who are working at a site who are having trouble with a credential can get help directly from their HR or IT team. So we're going to direct people immediately to their own site admin for Tier 1 support. We're also allowing people and administrators to set their own interface language. For the Airfob Pro mobile app, we are adding device control options in the API, and we are allowing control for BLE-based device control within that app. For the Airfob Pro web portal, again, you'll be able to set the user's language to have them get that invitation in their own language. And also, of course, it's down under the Airfob partner portal, but you'll be able to customize those message templates as well, so they can get that in their own language and with your branding or the customer's branding as well. You can choose between email and SMS to invite users to a site. You can apply schedules to access levels and doors dynamically. And we have TNA functionality at the device level, and you can get that through the event logs as well, so that you'll be able to more easily integrate with third-party TNA services. And within the partner portal, you're going to be able to see the site data, such as the credit status and the number of active users, so that you can assess what the needs are of your customers, and also better sell them credits when they need them, or sell them new devices when they need them. Rather than going through the portal in detail, I'm going to give it over to Josh to give you a guided tour.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Let me take you guys through what we've been working on here in Mocha. So for our new application, we completely revamped all of our designs. We're starting here with our sign-up page. From here, we wanted really a chance to show our customers what we're preparing at Mocha, what kind of solutions we have, what kind of products we're preparing, and what kind of services we provide. So we're starting from the login here and showing people what we're doing. From there, administrators can sign into our Airfob Pro web app, and we're taken immediately to our new dashboard. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from all of our installers, our distributors, and their customers. They want to know what's going on their site. So what we've done here is given them data at a glance right at the top. They can see their today's attendance, which is based on percentage, and you can set where you're viewing for today's attendance. So you can set it by device group in the site settings section. Next, we have our active users on the site. Active users means they have their mobile credential or an RFID card that's been assigned to them. So here they can also see their pending users, the number of devices that have been installed on their site, and the device groups that they're sorting them in. And finally, their credit status, which is very important. So it shows them every month how many credits they need for that following month. And it shows them how many credits that they have currently. So they'll be able to know when to contact our distributors and re-up on their credits. Below that, we have our usage graph. Here, our usage graph can be filtered by device groups. You can also see your daily, weekly, and monthly usage, or you can set your own date range. Below our graph, we have recent actions. So these are different events, important events that have happened on the site. So administrators can know when users have been activated, when their credentials are issued, revoked, or when devices lose connection to the network. So moving on, we've completely updated the look of our user management section, where we can have these useful icons at the top to immediately do batch actions and edit your users. You can also manage their groups in batches, set their access levels, batch export, import, and upload their images. So if we go to our Add User button here, we can see that there's some new additions to the scope of adding users. We can select their specific language so that messages are sent to them in their target language. And of course, down here, you can set whether they receive their invitations via email or SMS now. All previous functionality is similar for access levels. You can set your validity period, and you can add RFID cards. And we can see here clearly we've brought the user groups out to its own menu. So it has its own page, and you can see all of the groups that you've created and how many users are in those groups. Also, we can create subgroups. Going on to device management. Here we can see a list of all the devices that have been registered on the site. We can refresh so we can see up-to-date information. And now you have the ability to delete devices from your site through our API. You can batch update their firmware. You can set their schedule settings for unlock or lock. These schedules are schedules that are created in our access management menu, and they can be applied to devices directly, or they can be applied to access levels. And of course, we still have device groups as well. And again, we brought that to its own page so you can clearly manage your groups. Going back shortly to this list, if we click on a single device, that's going to bring up information about that device specifically, and then you're going to have more granular control over the device. You're going to update firmware, reboot, factory reset, and adjust network settings. Not only that, we also support SiO2 settings for our devices. Moving on to our access management. We're first greeted with the holiday groups page. So here, we can set our holidays. You can add by the date or the week. And once you've saved your list of holidays, they appear out here. You can open and close your different holiday groups and see the specific holidays within that group. Now, we take the holiday groups, and when creating our schedules, we can add them directly to the schedule. And of course, when we create the schedules, we're able to set times. And once you've set your times, they're listed below here in these pills, which are also editable. Once your schedules are in place, we can create access levels. So here on our access levels page, when you click on add access level, you're able to add device groups or devices by themselves. So the device groups, once you've added a group, any device that has been added to that group later will automatically receive this access level. And when you add the schedules, you can see here, clearly displayed, the time frame for the schedule, as well as the holiday groups that have been added to that schedule. Okay, so this is the entirety of what we have right now. The pages that you've seen today are either completely finished or 90% of the way there, and we are just finishing up our remaining 2 sections.
Thanks, Josh. Now we'll move on to the mobile apps. As I mentioned before, the Airfob Space app for end users is getting a new card-based or wallet-inspired design. We see opportunities for Airfob Space beyond just access control. We see it in memberships, in payments, in all kinds of areas. So we think a wallet is really appropriate for this, but we're going to keep some of the features that you love. For example, the ability to customize cards with custom backgrounds, custom images, and customer logos as well. Of course, we are also updating the Airfob Pro app as well. That's going to have a lot more features and functionality. When it launches, it will mostly have door control and device control. But in the long run, you'll be able to do anything with this app that you can do with the Airfob Pro web portal as well. I'll let Josh talk now about some specific changes to the API and SDK that we're introducing.
All right, so we've had some important changes to our API and our SDK. So here we kind of outlined the additional functionality that we're implementing for Airfob Space 2.0. So first, taking a look at our Airfob Engine API, we're able to set user languages, which is huge for our customers, so that they can get information and they can use the application in the language that they need. From there, we've also set up a federated admin control. So this allows us and our customers more control over what their administrators can do, what information they can access, and what the information they shouldn't have access to. After that, this has been a long time coming, and I'm sure many of you out there will appreciate that we can now add devices through our API. So you'll be able to batch add devices for sites that are not within your area. After that, we have our door creation. So this will enable us to add devices, multiple devices, to doors within our access control. So you can have your in device and your out device. You can have any number of devices you want added to the door. From there, you'll be able to control them the way you need and set schedules for your doors. After that, we have our holiday time controls within our schedules. So if you've applied a holiday group to a schedule, you're able to set times in which you will be able to access that site even during the holiday. After that, we're going to have more visitor controls, where you're going to be able to add visitors and select how they can access your site. We also have maximum time offline controls. Before, this was only able to be controlled at the site level by us, but now we're opening it up to the API, and you'll be able to set the maximum time that your mobile devices can be offline and still access your site from the Airfob Pro application itself. And our last big change for our API is the message template control. So for your customers, you can set at the site level their different tailored messages with their branding and in the languages that they want. After that, an important update to our SDK is BLE functionality. So before, we had to download a separate Suprema application to be able to control the BLE for our devices. So now we're going to be able to have a BLE connection to the devices and update their firmware and update their network settings.
Thanks, Josh. Now the most important question: how do we actually work together? We've already got some great contracts, and we've been doing great work with companies around the world. Here you see some of what we've done in Korea with Fast 5, with Lotte Tower, Korea's tallest building, with Kakao, and with some government customers as well who want the highest level of security. But today we're here to talk about the international market. So who is this really for? The most success we've seen so far has been with co-working spaces. I think I've mentioned enough about that already, the benefits of being able to untether those community managers from the front desks and get them out amongst the members. Also hybrid offices where they need to make sure everyone has a spot for that day. So integration with workplace experience suites and other kinds of software that enables a good hybrid work experience. What we're calling member-driven companies, those are gyms, self-storage, these kinds of places where you've got a lot of different members, a lot of turnover, and staggered expiration dates where managing cards is just very difficult. Also, multi-branch companies, co-living like Mamikos in Indonesia that we discussed, vacation rentals, and much more. If you're wondering if Airfob Space is appropriate for a certain customer type, just get in touch with me and we can talk through it together. With co-working in particular, I just wanted to brag a little bit. We've had incredible growth with Fast 5, going from just 12 branches in April of 2021 to looking at being in around 60 branches by the end of this year. And they've also promised that we'll be, not just promised, but contractually promised, that we'll be in all their new branches going forward into the next 2 years. But in addition to this, we're also in Dream Plus, Korea's, I think, third largest co-working brand, My Workspace, another large co-working brand, and Shinhan S Bridge and acceleration space. And not on this slide, but we're also in Spark Plus now, which is Korea's second largest co-working brand. So we've really proven that this market is ripe for access control as a service. I would encourage you to approach your local co-working brands, and let us know if you need any case studies or other backup on that. What's the pricing look like on Airfob space? Well, we're introducing a base fee that covers up to 5 readers and up to 500 active credentials in a month, and that's 5 credits. One credit is one credit is about $10 or €10 for the end user. That's the MSRP. And we're selling those at around $6 or €6 to our distributors. Of course, things like bulk discounts are possible, so we can discuss that further as well. Add an additional reader, quite simple, just 1 extra credit. Add another 100 users, that's 1 credit as well. We're working on the pricing right now for our SMS invitations. It may be slightly different according to country, but we will have a credit system for SMS invitations as well. Here's that pricing that I mentioned, around $6 or €6 per credit and $10 to the end customer. So there is some room for you to make a nice margin on that. And here is that summary of the changes. So customers pay per reader and per user in bulk. So there's no maintenance credits and there's no option like Suprema Regular right now where you would just pay one time. We really want to create that recurring revenue model. And beyond that, we also want to make sure that we can offer great service and continue to support our servers long term. So it's important that we have a model that supports that with ongoing revenue. As I mentioned, we are introducing that base fee that covers up to 5 users and 5 readers and 500 users in a month. If you have just 2 readers, you're going to pay the same amount. The reason for that is because we want to make sure that we can provide a high level of support, and you can afford to provide a high level of support as well. Customers will pay additional monthly fees to get more readers, to get more devices, and also in the future, we believe to unlock more features and services. Partners, you'll be able to manage customer credits directly in the distributor portal. And with the SDK and API, we think that will still be free for a lot of cases, such as an individual workplace trying to implement something. But if it's a product for resale, then we'll probably charge for that use of the SDK or API. And if there's a very high amount of usage, of course, we'll need to charge for the API as well to keep our own costs under control. But there should be opportunities for us to partner with you and have some intermediary revenue opportunities there too. What doesn't change? Well, we're going to continue to work with really excellent value-added resellers around the world. Don't expect to see Mocha salespeople and installers in markets around the world. We want to work with you. We're still going to work with license codes to activate credits or through the portal as well. And customers will be able to buy those licenses and those credits either month by month as they're needed, or they can buy them in bulk. It really depends on what's needed in a region. In some regions, we have customers that want to buy 2 years worth of credits up front. In other regions, they just want to pay for what they use in a month. We're open to either way of working. What happens to Suprema Regular and Dynamic with this? Well, first off, we know it's going to be important to continue to support these because that's how you have an on-prem solution with biometrics and mobile credentials as well. I think we will have a solution in the future that handles this with Airfob Space. But since we don't in the beginning, we know we need to continue to support regular and dynamic. And we heard a lot of feedback from you at SGPP that the current pricing and support for these is not ideal. So we're having lots of internal discussions about that pricing and support and how we can better support you with this. So please look forward to some additional updates from our team in the near future. So what's next? As you know, we're launching Airfob Space 2.0 in February of 2023. And we want to work with value-added resellers like you and Supremo regional offices in some cases to find the best way to operate in each region. And that's going to vary slightly between the regions. A lot of that comes down to how we get the products out to the region, how we ship them, how we price them, all kinds of stuff. But we're going to make sure that the prices for the distributors and installers are always fair and competitive, and the prices for the end users are also fair and competitive. We've already started talking to many of you about distributorship agreements. We're going to continue those discussions. We'll be reaching out to some others who we haven't started those discussions with soon so that we can get this in place. But please understand that our target markets to start with our launch are going to be Korea, Europe, and Japan, possibly some other areas in Asia as well. We want to handle the entire world as quickly as we can, but we have limits to our resources. So we want to make sure that we give you the best service possible. In order to do that, we're going to slow our rollout a little bit instead of doing every region in the world all at once. We want to ensure that we have a solid sales and distribution process in place. We need to get you some documentation, some training, some marketing materials. Look out for that soon. You probably don't need to ask for it directly. We're preparing everything now. We'll have this all available to you as soon as we possibly can. We're ready to start creating success together with you for Airfob Space. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, if you'd like to talk through some partner opportunities or customer opportunities together, please get in touch. Here are all of our email addresses, Andrew's, mine, and Josh's. Please, if you'd like any more information, we're here to help. We're going to do our best to get Airfob Space up and running for you as quickly as possible, as smoothly as possible, and with as many opportunities for us to make money together as possible. Thanks for your time. I welcome your questions. Looking forward to working with you.